So this is the third installment of the rolling on the side lesson. This is actually more a twisting lesson than a rolling lesson. But yes, there's a little bit of rolling in the upper torso. This is a very famous Feldenkrais lesson as well. It's a rolling of an arm around yourself lesson. Okay, so why don't we just get to it? Lie on your side, again in a fetal position. And you can start with an arm under you. Today I'm going to not have any additional support for the head because I'd like to be able to rest the head on the floor at one point, and you will see when we get there. Just to remind you to sort of recap and restart this process, if you're lying on your side in fetal position and your top arm is long, you can begin to slide it forward and back and roll your upper torso forward and back and become aware of the ease with which you do it, to the ground forces and how you roll on the ribs. The fact that your head participates, that this is easy and simple. And then you can begin to explore slightly different trajectories of reaching with that arm, right? So we're reaching forward, and then we can begin to incrementally reach a little bit further up, which immediately changes something in the way that you're rolling, right? Because if your intention is to roll this way or this way, it will feel very different, right? So you can think of those numbers on a clock, or even in between numbers on the clock, and just begin to explore the different trajectories and only go to where is easy. There are parts that are very easy to reach out to, and then there are parts that are not so easy to reach to, right? And then you can go down below as well. I'm going to change right now and have my head on the floor and continue to do this. It's a lot less easy to reach either up above or down below, right? So now we're going to take this into a circle, right? So the right arm, my top arm, is going to function a little bit like a hand on a clock, right? And it's going to go around the rim of the clock, around all the numbers, as long as they're easy to touch, to get to, right? You can allow for your clock to be not perfectly rounded. You know, it could be like a sort of a Salvador Dali clock that is kind of warped to one side or morphed a little bit to one side. This, in my case, this is the larger part of the clock. It gets a little bit smaller here. The hand is resting on the floor as I make the circle, as I explore an easy way of making a semicircle from the head to the knees. And after doing this for a few minutes, maybe not as quickly as I went through it, but taking your time, becoming more and more comfortable with it. Maybe the constraint of having a straight, long arm might be a little too much for you, in which case feel free to bend the elbow a little bit and just make a circle with a bent arm. Have the hand resting on the floor at all times. And when you get to yourself, to the belly, the thighs, whatever, just let the hand come to rest on top of yourself. And then eventually begin to explore what it's like to go over the ridge of the pelvis. And now you can see how I'm using my torso and head to begin to move back so that it's not all arm. I'm not just moving my arm back behind me. I'm using myself, roll a little bit back, and that would allow my arm to feel a little bit more comfortable sliding down. And again, I'm going to do this patiently, safely, to explore how far down behind myself can I let my arm go. And if I'm able to reach the floor, and you see my head is already turned this way, again, to help my shoulder not be compromised in that position, I'm beginning to explore the territory, the space behind my back on the floor. Just very simply, and then without overreaching back behind myself, I roll back, let my hand, my arm come over myself again, and I continue to slide down this way And then I begin to explore what it's like to come close to the head. And this is the other very important part. As you come close to the head, things become a little bit more difficult, not as smooth. The movement becomes a little more viscous. So, again, if I roll a little bit back, and I just let the hand stay here, kind of move slowly, two interesting things are going to begin to happen. One is that the arm can begin to relate to the face more, to come close to the face, maybe even rest on the face for some people. For some people who lengthening the arm this way is more too difficult, once again, simply bend the elbow if you feel that the shoulder is compromised, and just make the circle this way. But notice that in this area, the palm is facing down, but as soon as you come a little bit closer to the top of the head, the pinky side of the hand begins to lift. So the arm begins to turn. So this is one interesting detail, to look at how, as you come over your head, the hand, the arm naturally turns, and you end up being on the knuckles of the hand, on the back of the hand. And as you roll back forward, the arm rolls again. So this is one very interesting detail. The other one is that if you're able to rest the arm over your head, you may go through the process where you're not exactly sure if it's the arm that rolls the head or the head that rolls the arm. Or maybe it's your upper torso that rolls both of them. Once again, is it the head that rolls the arm? Is it the arm that rolls the head? Or is it the upper thoracic spine in the upper chest that as you roll back with it and with your head, the arm just continues to roll behind you? And since this is one of the most challenging part of the lesson, I feel a little bit of strain here. So I'm going to come a little bit forward to protect my shoulder area, right? Now, I will lengthen my top leg, which is my right leg, down below, simply continuing the line of my torso and body. Flex the foot a tiny bit and begin to slide the heel down and away from me. Sliding it down and away, lengthening the heel, shortening the foot, but lengthening the heel down and away, which in turn is pulling on the pelvis, which is pulling on the spine, is changing the shape of the spine, and is changing something in the relationship of the ribs and the shoulders and the cervical spine. And I can feel that these reaching out with that heel allows my hand to come a little bit closer on top of my face, on top of my head. And then as I come back to this position, I explore the circle again. And lo and behold, this is a lot easier to do now. Now observe my head and how I'm allowing it to just do what is easy. I'm not directing my head, I'm allowing it to go with the movement. It is this part of the spine in the upper thoracic that is guiding everything. And this is kind of where I'm kind of done feeling safe. So I will once again resume, and I recommend for you again to take a break, to rest more often than I do in this lesson. And I will continue to go down and explore what it's like to reach from under. So once again, watch. My upper torso rolls back, my arm goes back, and I'm beginning to explore that space behind me. And look, my head, as I'm reaching with my arm further behind me, my head just wants to look that way. I'm ending up seeing my right hand. And I will go once again over the top of the head. And slowly reach towards that point. I'm wondering, will I make a full circle today or not? And if I'm being true to myself, I will not try to get there, try to make a full circle, unless I'm very comfortable with it. And so I finally found the place where I'm not tensing up, not overreaching, and I can go back and forth into that circle. And there's a little bit of separation here between my knees, which is perfectly okay as long as I recognize and I know what I'm doing, and I can work to minimize it as I go. Okay? This is it. This is the lesson. And this is, again, an extremely popular and useful lesson. It has a twist in it. It has a lot of relationship between the ribs and the spine and the cervical spine and the thoracic spine and how the pelvis and leg are engaged in this process. So a really wonderful lesson to come back to every once in a while. And you do one side at a time. There's no need to go immediately to both sides. You can do one side one day. You can come to the other side at a different day and explore it in a different way, because we're so different, the way we organize ourselves on both sides. Okay? So have fun with it. Play safely, and let me know if you have any questions, any things you need clarified. See you next week. Take care.